Picture this. You just got a raise. It's not huge, but it's real enough to finally breathe a little easier. And for about a week, you feel it. That quiet sense of relief, like something heavy just shifted off your chest. Then a month passes, 2 months, and somehow you're still stressed about money. Not dramatically, not in a crisis, but that low hum of financial anxiety that you thought the raise would fix, still there, just adjusted to the new number. Here's what makes this strange. You're not reckless, you're not irresponsible. You read the articles, you know about budgeting, you probably understand compound interest better than most people at your dinner table. And yet, the money stuff still feels hard, still feels like something you haven't quite figured out. And the part that gets me, the part most people never say out loud, is that being smart actually makes this harder sometimes, not easier. Because smart people are better at rationalizing, better at building convincing stories around the choices they're already emotionally committed to. That's what this video is about, not how to be smarter with money, but why smartness alone was never the solution in the first place, and what actually is. We've been sold a very clean story about money. The idea that if you just understand it well enough, you'll make better decisions. Learn the rules, follow the plan, optimize the numbers. That's the promise behind every finance book, every budgeting app, every explainer video. And there's truth in that. Knowledge matters. But there's a gap that almost nobody talks about, the distance between knowing the right thing and actually doing it. That gap isn't filled by more information. It's filled by something much messier. It's filled by emotion, by identity, by the invisible stories you carry about what money means and what you deserve. Behavioral economists have a term for this. They call it the intention-action gap. You intend to save, you intend to invest. But when the moment comes, when the real decision is in front of you, something shifts. The plan dissolves, and you make the human choice instead of the optimal one. And here's the thing, this happens to everyone. To the financial analyst who can't stop impulse buying, to the accountant who avoids looking at their personal accounts, to the MBA graduate still living paycheck to paycheck. Knowing how money works and knowing how you work around money are two completely different things. So what's actually going on inside the brain when we make these decisions? There's a concept in psychology called cognitive ease. When something feels familiar, comfortable, or emotionally safe, your brain processes it faster and with less resistance. And the reverse is also true. When something feels uncertain or emotionally loaded, the brain finds reasons to delay, avoid, or reframe it entirely. Money, for most people, is emotionally loaded. It's tied to security, it's tied to self-worth. It's tied to how you were raised and what your parents argued about on Tuesday nights. So when you sit down to review your finances or make an investment decision, you're not just doing math, you're activating all of that. Every belief, every fear, every memory that lives in the emotional layer underneath the spreadsheet. And your brain, which is very, very good at protecting you, starts working to resolve the discomfort, not by solving the problem, but by explaining it away, by finding a reason the decision you want to make is actually the smart one. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. It's when your conclusion comes first and the logic follows after. So you buy the car because it's an investment in your professional image. You skip the retirement contribution because the market is too uncertain right now. You upgrade the apartment because mental health matters. All of those things can be true, but sometimes they're just permission slips written by a mind trying to avoid discomfort. Let me make this more concrete. Think about lifestyle inflation, that quiet pattern where your expenses grow almost automatically every time your income does. Most people know it's happening, most people have read about it, and most people do it anyway, because it doesn't feel like a mistake when it's happening. It feels like progress. The nicer apartment isn't a financial error, it's evidence that you've arrived. The better car is an excess. It's something you earned. And there's a social layer to this too, friends, family, colleagues. Spending is often a form of communication. It says, I'm doing well, I belong here, I've made it. This is where financial decisions stop being about money at all. They become about identity, about belonging, about proving something to others, but mostly to yourself. And that's not a character flaw. That's just being human in a world that constantly equates money with worth. Then there's the other side, the avoidance. The person who knows they should have an emergency fund but keeps not getting around to it. Or the one who received a financial windfall and let it sit in a low-interest account for 2 years. Because figuring out what to do with it felt overwhelming. Avoidance feels like procrastination, but it runs deeper than that. It's often a fear of making the wrong move, because sometimes not knowing feels safer than knowing and having to act. So here's the realization that changes things. Financial improvement isn't primarily a knowledge problem. It's an awareness problem. The goal isn't to know more formulas. It's to start noticing the emotional triggers that sit underneath your financial decisions. Because once you can see the pattern, once you can catch yourself mid-rationalization and recognize it for what it is, the whole dynamic shifts. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're just watching, with a little more curiosity and a little less judgment. There's a concept in financial psychology sometimes called the enough number. It's the idea that many of our financial struggles come from never defining what enough actually looks like for us, personally, not as a society tells us, not as our peer group signals, but for the life we actually want. Without that anchor, you're always running toward a finish line that keeps moving. The raise wasn't enough. The promotion wasn't enough. The new apartment wasn't enough. And the anxiety stays because the goal was never concrete. But when you define it, when you sit down and genuinely ask yourself what kind of life you want to fund, what would feel like freedom, what would feel like peace, the decisions get simpler. Not easy, but simpler. Because now you have something real to measure against. Not an abstract idea of success, an actual picture of your own life. This matters because money, at its core, is a tool for time. Not for things, not for status, for time. For the ability to choose how you spend your hours, who you spend them with, and what you're doing when you get there. But when we use money to manage emotion, when we spend to feel relief, to feel significant, to feel like we're keeping up, we're trading the long-term resource for short-term comfort. We're spending future freedom to feel better right now, and that's a trade most people make without ever consciously choosing it. The people who seem to quietly build wealth over time aren't necessarily smarter. They're often just clear on what they're building toward. Clear enough that the short-term temptations lose a little of their pull. Not all of it, they're still human, but enough. Compound interest, the most talked about concept in personal finance, only works if you give it time. And most people understand that mathematically. But what they don't always see is that the biggest threat to compound interest isn't the market, it's impatience. It's the emotional need to see results now, to feel something changing, to get some proof that the sacrifice is worth it. That emotional need quietly undermines the one thing that would make everything work. So what do you actually do with this? Because I said earlier, I don't want to give you a lecture, and I mean that. I'm not going to tell you to cut your coffee or track every rupee or live like a monk. That kind of advice assumes the problem is discipline. And we've already established it's not. It's awareness. Start by picking one financial decision you keep avoiding. Not to fix it immediately, just to look at it. Ask yourself honestly, what emotion is this decision triggering? Is it fear, shame, a feeling that you don't deserve to have money, or a feeling that you do deserve to enjoy it right now? Just name it. That alone shifts something. The second thing's to build what I'd call a pause layer. When you're about to make a financial decision that feels emotionally charged, a purchase, a commitment, an investment, give it 24 hours. Not because the decision is necessarily wrong, but because a little time separates the emotion from the choice. That gap is where better decisions live. And third, define your enough in writing. Not vague goals. Not be financially free someday. What does a life you'd feel genuinely satisfied with actually look like? What does it cost? What does it require you to save or invest each month? When that picture becomes real, your daily decisions start to have somewhere to point. I want to leave you with something that I think gets missed in almost every money conversation. Financial struggle is rarely about intelligence and almost never about effort. It's about the invisible layer, the beliefs, the feelings, the unexamined stories running in the background of every financial choice you make. The person who quietly built real financial stability over time didn't do it by becoming a different kind of person. They did it by getting a little more honest with themselves, by learning to notice the moments when emotion was driving the car and gently, patiently taking the wheel back. You're not bad with money because you're not smart enough. You're navigating something that is genuinely complicated, socially loaded, emotionally charged, and almost never taught with the full picture. Give yourself a little grace for that, and just start with awareness. One honest look at one honest pattern. That's the beginning of something that actually sticks. Not because you followed a stricter plan, but because you finally understood what was driving the decisions in the first place. Money gets simpler when you understand yourself a little better. Not simple, but simpler. And that's usually enough to start. Speaking of patterns that run quietly in the background, in the next video, we're going to talk about something that millions of people use every single day without realizing how it's designed to work against them. It's called the credit card trap, and it's not what most people think it is. So, stay tuned and subscribe to our channel.